was reading a book yesterday, and he said, you need to contemplate on a question, but you need to ask yourself, what is the most important question to ask myself? You have to go deeply into your heart to know what is the most important question. Do you get it?
Yeah, I would say I have one. I mean, I could go and find others, I'm sure, but...
So when I got deeply into my heart and I asked myself that question, I just started crying because it was just so intimate to ask myself that question. I thought that was like one of the most intimate thing ever, to ask myself that question, even though I asked myself that question before many times. But this time it was from that depth of knowing that this is the most important and intimate question ever.
Is it so intimate that you wouldn't share it with someone else?
No.
Good.
Well, it's, who am I?
Yeah, that's a pretty fractal question.
You know what's really interesting before you start asking yourself, who am I? First you need to really see who you are in the way of yourself. And once you start discovering those false identities, it's just so, you know, and feeling them falling away.
Yeah, I could see that feeling really good. Do people recognize you after all those false identities are gone? Probably not, huh?
People don't look at me. People look at the image they have in their head about me. So they wouldn't notice.
They carry their own false identity of you. So you can shed all of your own, but then everybody else is still looking through that same mask at you. So you're like, what was the point?
Well, the point is not to impress everyone. It's like, hello everyone. I got all my false identities down now. Except the one. It's the show off. I can't get rid of that one.
Yeah, why would you want to? Because otherwise no one would ever know how fun it is to be you.
Well, will that matter?
Yeah, because I really like hearing about it. Maybe other people do too.
So, who are you right now? Okay, so since you're taking your time, I just want to say something. It was interesting. Recently, I've been really asking myself all the time, you know, and who is this and who is this? When I'm having certain thoughts, you know, who is thinking this? And the person who is thinking those thoughts is just so generous with exposing herself. She always tells me like, oh yeah, this is, you know, this is the one, I'm better than everyone else. Or, oh yeah, this is the one who wants to be the good girl. You know, like, it just doesn't hesitate in telling me who they are.
How many of those do you have, by the way?
Quite a few. Just like you.
And everybody else too.
Woohoo! Welcome to midnight.
It's gonna be a lot of laughing. It's just how it is.
Oh, it's okay. I think that's part of it.
So where are we going on our podcast journey into the outer galaxy?
Actually, there is nowhere to go. You just close your eyes and you go within, and that's how you travel.
But wait, going within is still going somewhere.
The train that goes to future, those ones from movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That the train that goes to the future is made of a fluff. It's made of a nebula fluff in your mind. It could never be made of a real stuff. Like this dreamed physicality.
Wow. Okay, so we are like extra dense nebula fluff? Is that what you're trying to say? Or
Well, we are made of consciousness.
In my spiritual quest, in my 20s, I was very much in search of spiritual answers.
25 years ago.
Oh no.
Okay, what were you saying?
I wasn't going to say that part.
What was it? Huh?
Well, I'm surprised I remember anything from 25 years ago, but my spiritual awakening journey, I would search for wisdom, search for answers, and I was always like looking for what's out there. And eventually I just realized that I don't need to search anywhere. I don't need to look. It's even in the aspect of searching is inherently taking away from what already is within. So I completely like let go of the search and just focus more on the being. However, then I was in 2015, which was only 5 years ago. I was re-inspired to launch my spiritual quest, and I'm really glad that I did, because I found a lot of interesting nebulic fluffed ideas that that were very just like, it helped me find my place in the world, knowing a little bit more about the structure from our perspective of that other world, because it's so vast and
what do you mean by
it's so unknown.
What do you mean by the other world?
Well, I mean the non-physical world.
You mean the spirit world?
Yeah.
You mean the consciousness?
I suppose, yeah.
The awareness?
Well, it's the soul journey. That's what I'm talking about.
The love?
That part especially.
I think it's all the same. I was thinking the quality of awareness, what does it feel like? And it's not just aware, it's aware and it's love at the same time. It's aware and it accepts everything unconditionally. It doesn't have the capacity not to love or not to accept or not to allow. It's unconditional love in just the act of observation. Yeah, let's just abandon the mind and let's drop somewhere else. It'd be interesting imagining yourself just go inside of your body, forget about your head, just like there's nothing in there, and knowing that whatever you speak just comes naturally from that body, from that infinite consciousness, without that interference of your mind. And then whatever comes is always true and good and spontaneous.
Do you want to know what came? I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Because I was just realizing, so I was like, I dropped below my head and, kind of went on an inquiry. But then I realized that if I completely disregarded my whole head, then I probably wouldn't have vocal cords that would function either. And
so still in the mind. That's exactly what the mind says.
Well, right.
Things like
and
this.
I just want to continue it because it's a fun mental trip.
Yeah, tell us.
So
please share.
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple, but so I thought, well, if I go below the vocal cords, then I can't tell you about it. So I'm going to stay at the vocal cords. And then that just became my focus. But then I realized how wonderful it is to have a built-in mechanism that flutters it just the right way to be able to create music out of my mouth that you interpret and have a whole meaning associated to each and every little piece of it. Isn't it so fascinating?
Each piece of your sound.
Yeah, each piece.
Yeah, this long string of silences.
When they're
sounds.
Recognizable words.
Mm-hmm. Language. It's so interesting.
Of course, most of it is done through other means than auditory. When you're in person, so to speak. So in that respect, we're kind of in the dark right now to the audience because they don't have the visual language.
So did you say you're gonna drop down?
I'm gonna ask everyone to watch Olivia do her dropping down and see what happens.
Okay, I'm in. Okay, she was breathing really hard. She must be so hot. We closed all the windows.
Oh, I assume she's just very relaxed.
Yeah.
It's a form of communication that it's like ujjayi breath.
You get pretty relaxed when you're sleeping at night too, huh?
Thank God, yes. Because then I can go float around in some other realm. But the crazy thing is, like, if I spend the whole night in that trippy space of dream world, and I come back and I only remember like a little piece of it, what is the point? Like, some other part of me gets to enjoy all that, and I'm down here like, oh, must have been fun. Like, it's so weird,
Well, so when you think about it, where is it?
Other layers of my identity.
Laugh.
Yeah, I wish you could see her face.
I think that's just like life. Everything goes like bloop. It's already gone.
Yeah, that is kind of true.
Yeah, it's like waking up in a dream and you don't remember what the dream was. But I think and it didn't matter what it was. I think what really mattered was who you were while you were dreaming. Because that's always the only thing that really matters.
Who you were while you were dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much of an identity in dreams. I'm almost like a pure observer, which is kind of cool.
Oh, really? You never have characters? Sometimes?
Never sometimes. Sometimes.
Is it okay
sometimes never.
Keshu snows a little bit loud, no? No, it's the cutest thing. She probably doesn't, she's like so used to that. I cuddle her so much when she's sleeping. She wouldn't even wake up. Even if you like toss her around. She would be so relaxed.
I like when she's relaxed.
She's so good.
Our little daughter. With 4 paws.
This is quite fun.
Yeah, I think we could structure it such that one of us is an interviewer next time with some preconceived questions the other person doesn't know.
Well, why don't you start right now?
Well, I would have to take a minute to preconceive those questions.
Oh, just do it on the spot.
All right.
So,
no more arms. Yes?
what was your question?
Well, I went through a few and they all just dissolved into nothingness because I already saw your answer and it made the question irrelevant.
So just notice how your mind wants to jump.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, take me out of your mind into somewhere else.
The fruit? No, right.
Okay, where are we going?
What's your question? Or shall I just ask? Oh, I had an insight today.
Perfect. My question is, what insight did you have
Yeah,
today?
thank you. So it was interesting. I was writing a message. And the message was, what are we going to create today? And then I looked at the message and I was like, boom! It was for me. You know? It was for me to answer. Like I was writing it to you, but actually it was a message for me.
You were writing it to me?
Yeah, so I never sent it because it was for me. And I realized that, wow, you know, like I want to think about, I actually don't care what you want to create. Like I really
don't
just
care.
asking. I mean,
Well, I think we know the answer to that one. All right. Moving on.
I mean, it was irrelevant in this situation. I knew that we would have a really good time, as always. And then I realized that so often we're asking people questions and they are not for them, you know, they are for us. And we are afraid to ask questions, so we ask other people because it's easier. It's so much easier to just like, okay, like here is my question on you, and then whoosh, I don't have to have that responsibility of actually answering it or that effort, you know. So it's interesting. Like next time you have a question for someone, when you catch yourself asking, or even before you ask, like go like, oh my god, maybe that's for me. You know, that question when I wrote on the phone to you today, it just like jump up at me and it's like looking at me, like I was like, wow, this is for me.
And you know, the most common question seems to be, how are you?
Yeah.
And you know, no one really ever answers it. So if we answer ourselves, we can take that opportunity to actually answer it and discover more of what's active within us on an ongoing basis.
So how are you?
I'm a swirl of familiar and unfamiliar coalescing energies dancing in blissful harmony.
Wow. You really must be proud of yourself that that came out.
Well, I mean, you asked me.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to go that low. We can go somewhere between the mind and the second chakra. So that we've got third, fourth, and fifth. Fifth is the communication part that we spoke of already. So we got fourth and third. And third is about identity. And fourth is about love and unconditional unity. Which one should we talk about?
What do you mean identity?
I mean the separation that we experience in this reality distortion device. It's the form that we see ourselves as.
Mm-hmm.
Only because we are separate. And so it's like a polar.
Only because we perceive ourselves as separate?
Yeah, exactly. It's all about me identity and willpower, strength, and yeah. I see it as a very disconnected, but maybe an important step just to, like, if you don't actually claim your identity, then you just be sort of like this wish-wash soup of everything. So maybe, you know, when we...
How can you know that for sure?
Well, I don't. I'm philosophizing.
This is time for truth in here.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, why don't you give us a little dose of truth?
Well, I'll give you a little dose of truth. To leave the philosophy outside. What is true? Well, I love you. That's the ultimate truth. Wait, actually,
Oh, really?
let me question that one.
Okay.
Okay, it's interesting. You know, even that I love you, it's who is that I that says that would say that to you, as if there was, if it's the big I, you know, the self, it wouldn't use the you. It would just say, I love.
Or love is.
Or love. Or love. And what was before that?
The isness. The isness before it got down to business.
Jesus.
Oh, that's glorious. I am is basically, it's I am conveys an isness. So it doesn't convey a separation necessarily. It just conveys a being. The am, like a estás. We is. Instead of isn't, which is, it's kind of nice. I'm glad we is. Because we wasn't, I mean, what would be the point? I guess it'd all be the same thing, different perspective.
I didn't get it at all. Because, I don't know, what do you mean by we? As if there was more than one? That's
well, it's
part
the,
you don't get.
I guess that you have to introduce the idea of separation, at least.
Hello.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes.
The idea of the separation. It is.
So that's what I've been feeling all day.
Oh yeah, what have you been feeling all day?
The idea of separation.
At least it wasn't real.
I know, thank God.
At least it was just an idea.
Yeah, totally. It can be so realistic sometimes.